The story of Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan is one that many people think they already know, but the truth behind it is far more complex than what appeared on television. For years, audiences watched them together on the hit show The Beverly Hillbillies, where they played Jethro and Granny. On screen, their relationship looked warm, funny, and natural. They laughed together, argued in a playful way, and created moments that became part of television history. But behind the cameras, things were not always so simple. According to later reflections, there were moments of tension, disagreements, and strong personalities clashing. At the time, no one spoke openly about it. The show was a success, and the image of a happy cast was important to maintain. Now, many years later, with most of the original cast gone, Baer Jr. has become one of the last voices left to share what really happened. His memories are not just about conflict, but also about respect, lessons, and the hidden strength of a woman who was much more than the character she played. This story is not just about television, but about people, pressure, and the truth behind fame. To understand Baer Jr.'s journey, it is important to look at where he came from. He was born into a family that already had fame and public attention. His father, Baer Sr., was a heavyweight boxing champion known for his powerful presence and strong personality. Growing up with such a well-known father meant that expectations were always high. People did not just see Max Jr. as a child. They saw him as the son of a legend. This created a unique kind of pressure that followed him from an early age. His family background was rich with different cultures and stories, including German, Jewish, and Irish roots, which shaped his identity. There were also strong moments in his father's career that became part of family history, such as famous fights and public attention. All of this created an environment where success was expected, but also where it was difficult to stand out on one's own. Instead of following directly in his father's footsteps, Max Jr. explored different paths, including sports and education. He worked hard to build his own identity, showing that he was more than just a famous name. This early struggle to define himself played a big role in how he approached his later career in acting. Before fully entering the world of acting, Baer Jr. lived a life that was full of discipline and learning. He was active in sports during his school years, earning recognition in multiple activities, which showed his determination and energy. Instead of choosing an easy path based on his family name, he worked hard to prove himself in different areas. He also served in the United States Air Force, where he worked as a medical technician. This experience was very different from the world of Hollywood. It required responsibility, focus, and the ability to deal with real-life situations. These years helped him grow as a person and gave him a strong sense of discipline. After his service, he continued his education and earned a degree in business administration along with studying philosophy. This combination of subjects gave him both practical knowledge and deeper thinking skills. It is interesting to see how someone with such a background would later become famous for playing a simple and humorous character. His early life shows that there was always more to him than what people saw on screen. These experiences prepared him for the challenges of the entertainment industry, even if he did not realize it at the time. Baer Jr.'s entry into acting did not happen overnight. Like many actors, he started with small roles and worked his way up step by step. He appeared in different television shows, learning the basics of acting and understanding how the industry worked. These early roles were not glamorous, but they were important for building his skills. He had to adapt to different directors, different scripts, and different expectations. This kind of experience helped him become more confident and prepared for bigger opportunities. One of the most important moments in his career came when he auditioned for the Beverly Hillbillies. It was during this time that he met Irene Ryan, who was also auditioning for her role. There's a well-known story about how she helped calm his nerves before the audition. She took him out and tried to relax him, which led to a moment that would later become part of television history. During a screen test, he made a small mistake by bumping into a door, but instead of stopping, he turned it into part of the character. This natural reaction impressed the producers and helped him secure the role of Jethro. It was a moment that showed how sometimes accidents can lead to success. The success of the Beverly Hillbillies changed everything for Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan. The show became one of the most popular television programs of its time, attracting millions of viewers every week. People loved the characters, the humor, and the unique story of a family moving from a simple life to a wealthy one. Jethro and Granny became fan favorites, and their on-screen chemistry played a big role in the show's success. However, fame also brought challenges. Being part of such a successful show meant that the actors were constantly in the public eye. They had to maintain a certain image, and there was little room for personal struggles to be seen. Behind the scenes, the work could be demanding, with long hours and high expectations. For Baer Jr., the role of Jethro became both a blessing and a challenge. While it made him famous, it also made it difficult for people to see him as anything else. This is a common problem in the entertainment industry, where actors become strongly connected to one character. Despite these challenges, the show created lasting memories and left a strong impact on television history. Irene Ryan, known to millions as Granny, was a talented and experienced actress long before she joined the show. She had worked in entertainment for many years, building a career that included radio, stage, and television. Her experience made her a strong presence on set, and she took her work very seriously. While audiences saw her as a funny and sometimes stubborn character, there was much more to her personality. She was dedicated, professional, and had clear ideas about how scenes should be performed. This sometimes led to disagreements with others, including Baer Jr. These disagreements were not always negative. In many cases, they came from a desire to make the show better. Strong personalities often lead to strong results, but they can also create tension. For younger actors, working with someone so experienced could be both inspiring and challenging. Irene Ryan's approach to acting taught important lessons about timing, delivery, and commitment. Even when there were conflicts, there was also respect. Over time, these experiences helped shape Baer Jr. as an actor and as a person. As the years passed, the success of the Beverly Hillbillies began to fade, and the show eventually came to an end. For Baer Jr., this marked the beginning of a new challenge. He found it difficult to move on from the role of Jethro because audiences and casting directors continued to see him in the same way. This typecasting limited his opportunities and made it hard for him to explore different kinds of roles. Despite his education experience, he struggled to break free from the image that had made him famous. Instead of giving up, he decided to take control of his career by working behind the scenes. He became involved in writing, producing, and directing, showing that he had skills beyond acting. This shift allowed him to continue working in the industry while exploring new creative paths. It also reflected the determination he had shown throughout his life. He was not willing to be defined by one role, even if it was a successful one. This period of his life shows the reality of fame and the challenges that come with it in later years. As time created distance from the show, Baer Jr. began to reflect more openly on his experiences, including his relationship with Irene Ryan. With most of the original cast no longer alive, he became one of the few people who could share these memories. His reflections reveal a more balanced view of the past. While there were moments of tension and disagreement, there was also learning and growth. Irene Ryan was not just a difficult co-star. She was a dedicated actress who cared deeply about her work. Her influence can still be seen in the performances that made the show successful. By speaking openly, Baer Jr. helps to show that behind every successful show, there are real people with real emotions. Their stories are not always simple, but they are always meaningful. In the end, the story of Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan is not just about conflict or fame. It is about understanding, respect, and the lasting impact of shared experiences in the world of entertainment. As time moved forward, the later years of Irene Ryan's life began to reveal a deeper and more emotional side of her story, one that many viewers never fully understood while watching her on the Beverly Hillbillies. On screen, she remained a sharp, witty, and energetic Granny, always ready with a clever line or a bold reaction. But behind the scenes, her health was slowly becoming a concern. Acting is often seen as a glamorous profession, but it can also be physically and emotionally demanding, especially for someone who had already spent decades in the industry. Irene Ryan was deeply committed to her craft, and she continued working even when it became difficult. This dedication showed her strength, but it also meant that she sometimes pushed herself beyond her limits. During the later seasons of the show and after it ended, she continued performing, including taking on a role in the musical Pippin. It was during this time that her health issues became more serious. She was eventually diagnosed with a brain tumor, a condition that would change everything. For fans who only knew her as Granny, this news came as a shock. For those who worked closely with her, it was a painful reminder that even the strongest performers are human. Her final years were marked by both courage and struggle, showing a side of her that was rarely seen but deeply respected by those around her. For Max Baer Jr., witnessing Irene Ryan's final chapter left a lasting impact. Over the years, he began to understand her in a different way, not just as a co-star, but as a person who carried her own challenges and pressures. When they worked together, their disagreements often seemed personal, but with time, he saw them as part of a larger picture. Acting at a high level requires focus, discipline, and sometimes strong opinions. Irene Ryan had all of these qualities. And while they sometimes led to conflict, they also contributed to the success of the show. Max Baer Jr. has shared that she taught him important lessons, even if they did not always come in gentle ways. She showed him the importance of timing in comedy, the value of commitment to a role, and the need to take the work seriously. These lessons stayed with him long after the cameras stopped rolling. Looking back, he does not only remember the arguments, he remembers the growth that came from those moments. This kind of reflection is common when people look back on challenging relationships. What once felt difficult can later be seen as meaningful and even necessary. In this way, Irene Ryan's influence on Max Baer Jr. became part of his journey, shaping him into a stronger and more aware performer. The passing of Irene Ryan marked the end of an important chapter, not only for those who knew her personally, but also for the legacy of the Beverly Hillbillies. Her death was not just the loss of an actress, but the loss of a unique talent who had brought joy to millions of viewers. For Max Baer Jr., it was also the loss of someone who had been a major part of his early career. As one of the last surviving members of the main cast, he carries memories that are both personal and historical. Over time, he has taken on the role of storyteller, sharing insights that help fans understand what life was really like behind the scenes. These stories are valuable because they add depth to what people saw on television. They remind us that every show is built by real people with real experiences. While audiences may remember the laughter, the actors remember the work, the challenges, and the relationships that made it all possible. Max Baer Jr.'s decision to speak openly later in life shows a desire to preserve the truth, even if that truth is more complex than the image people remember. It also reflects a sense of responsibility to those who are no longer here to tell their own stories. In the end, the story of Max Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan is a reminder that success often comes with hidden layers. What audiences see is only part of the picture. Behind every performance, there are moments of effort, disagreement, learning, and growth. Their relationship, like many in the world of entertainment, was shaped by both collaboration and conflict. Yet, it is clear that there was also respect and a shared commitment to creating something meaningful. The Beverly Hillbillies remains a beloved show, not just because of its humor, but because of the people who brought it to life. Irene Ryan's legacy lives on through her performances, and Max Baer Jr.'s reflections help keep that legacy alive in a more complete and honest way. As time passes, these stories become even more important, offering insight into a world that many people only see from a distance. They remind us that behind every character is a human being, and behind every story is a truth waiting to be understood. As the years continue to pass, Max Baer Jr. slowly stepped further away from the spotlight, choosing a quieter and more controlled life compared to the chaos of Hollywood fame. After struggling with typecasting following the Beverly Hillbillies, he made a conscious decision to reshape his career on his own terms. Instead of chasing acting roles that rarely came, he focused on business and creative control. One of his most notable efforts was the filmmaking County Line, which he wrote, produced, directed, and starred in. The project was made on a very small budget, but it became a surprising success and proved that he had talent far beyond the character of Jethro. This moment was important because it showed that he could succeed without depending on television roles. It also gave him confidence to explore opportunities outside acting, including business ventures, such as developing casinos and entertainment properties. These choices reflected the education and discipline he had built earlier in life. While many actors struggle after losing a major role, Max Baer Jr. found a way to move forward by creating his own path. His journey during this period highlights resilience and the ability to adapt when life does not go as planned. At the same time, memories of Irene Ryan remain an important part of his story, even as he focused on new projects. With distance and time, his perspective continued to soften and mature. Early conflicts that once felt frustrating began to make more sense as he grew older and gained more experience in the industry. He started to recognize the pressure Irene Ryan had been under, especially as an older actress carrying a major role in a highly demanding show. Her dedication to perfection, which sometimes caused tension, could now be seen as a sign of professionalism and pride in her work. This change in understanding is something that often happens when people reflect on their past relationships. What once seemed difficult can later be seen as valuable. Baer Jr. has expressed that Irene Ryan was not just a co-star, but also a teacher in many ways. Even her strictness had a purpose, helping to shape performances that audiences would remember for years. By sharing these thoughts, he gives fans a more balanced and honest view of who she really was, beyond the character of Granny. The legacy of the Beverly Hillbillies continues to live on through reruns and cultural references, introducing new generations to the characters and stories that made it famous. For many viewers, the show represents a simpler time in television, with humor that is easy to understand and characters that feel familiar. Jethro and Granny remain two of the most memorable parts of the series, and their interactions are still enjoyed today. However, the deeper story behind the show adds another layer to its legacy. Knowing that the actors had real challenges and complex relationships makes the performances even more meaningful. It shows that great entertainment often comes from hard work and strong personalities working together, even when they do not always agree. Baer Jr.'s reflections help to preserve this deeper understanding, allowing audiences to appreciate the show not just for its humor, but also for the effort and dedication behind it. This kind of insight is valuable because it connects the past with the present, giving new life to a classic piece of television history. In the final view, the journey of Baer Jr. and Irene Ryan offers a powerful lesson about life, work, and human connection. Their story is not simply about conflict or success, but about growth, understanding, and the passage of time. It shows how people can influence each other in ways they may not fully realize at the moment. Irene Ryan's strong personality and commitment left a lasting mark on those who worked with her, including Baer Jr. in return. His willingness to reflect and share his experiences helps keep her memory alive in a meaningful way. Together, their story reminds us that behind every performance is a deeper reality, filled with effort, emotion, and personal struggle. As audiences continue to watch the Beverly Hillbillies, they are not just seeing characters on a screen, but the result of real lives coming together to create something lasting. This is what makes their story important, not just as entertainment history, but as a human